let us connect. There we go. That quote by Riley just cracks me up. Okay, so for anyone who hasn't been here before, I am also live on YouTube. This is a new venture for me. Just started it recently. So right now we are live on the first of those links. I have two YouTube channels, one for reading content and one for ASMR triggers. There will be overlap, but mostly I'm trying to keep them separated on YouTube. But if you are able and, you know, in the mood to pop open another window with the YouTube stream on it, then that actually really helps with watch hours, which is something that is a current goal to unlock the YouTube Partner Program. Also, dropping a sub if you haven't, dropping a like, comment, etc. Blah, 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 blah. All that stuff. And hello, YouTube. We are going to be reading more Merry Adventures of Robin Hood because apparently it's the season to be merry and bright, and what better way to be merry this Yuletide than with a bunch of merry men? Yes? Before you start this lovely reading bit, do you know what the Wait, Spirit Punk, really? I don't know if you're asking, like, if you're seriously asking, or if you're asking as a way to, like, trap me. Okay, from my understanding, it's from a song and originally referred to an area code, but then got used in like a TikTok of a basketball game and became about height, but then it can just be used for anything and it doesn't really mean anything. And then it's just like, oh, it's the number. It's not actually funny. But I believe that's the origin. Yeah. But it doesn't like mean something in the way that like 69 or 420 mean things, you know? It's just like a reference, and then people were like, haha, that number. And then I think it just got used as like a viral audio on TikTok, and so then it became a joke. Am I wrong? If anyone's like, you're garbage at this, Faolkor, and you're wrong, let me know. 67 is 69 2.0. Do you know what a 69 is? The fact that you think 67 is better than 69 is crazy. But anyways, hello YouTube, we are brand safe and friendly. Kindle is thinking really hard and having trouble opening. You're spot on with your explanation. Check me out. Hello, fellow kids. I know your lingo. Kindle's not opening. It's kind of freaking me out. The fact that it doesn't have a meaning is the only thing that keeps it alive. I guess kind of. Yeah. This is crazy. I wonder if I can pull it up on my phone as a last resort. There's no such thing as too much guac. That sounds risky and untrue. Dropping mics like they were candies. Oh yeah, let me pin the book over on YouTube. This is alarming though, that Kindle will not open. Hold on, let me bring up Task Manager, see if I need to like hard close it. Do you know what I mean? And then maybe open it. Sometimes that helps. Let me try. And get out of here, Kindle. And now come back, please. Please come back. Kindle. Sorry guys, usually it does not struggle with just opening. But let me see if I can pull it up, because the worst case scenario I can read off my phone. I think. But my phone Kindle is like not synced. Oh my god, this is horrible. I'm sorry guys. It's really terrible. Revising your drinking game, only do 1 shot max per chapter if you use the keyword. Okay, that seems safer. Or you could do the thing where like you alternate with water shots or something. However you want to do it. Okay, this is fucking crazy. This has never happened before. This never happened to me before, you guys. I'm going to go into my own chat and use the link to go to Gutenberg to download it on my phone. Oh no, wait, I should be able to download it just as a PDF. I don't have to read off my phone if I have to download it anyways. Smirts. Or, wait. Okay, not a PDF. I guess I can read it off of a browser tab. It's fine. It's fine, I don't care. You haven't had butter shots? Ew. What the hell is a butter shot? So I'm pretty sure that we were about to read the chapter called Robin Hood Shoots Before Queen Eleanor, which sounds pretty exciting. Drink Gatorade for the honorary shots. Hell yeah. There you go. There you go. That's a great idea. Yeah, okay, cool. I will... What the hell is a butter shot? It's a kind of schnapps? I'll be honest, I guess I don't really know what schnapps are. The only schnapps I think of is peppermint schnapps, but I don't know what makes a schnapps a schnapps. You know? Let me see, I'm trying to put the reading up in the, Would it creep you out if I looked straight at you guys while I was telling the story? Is it too uncanny if I put the wording up there? Too uncanny? Or do you guys like it? It's a little far away for me, god damn it. I need to get contacts again. I still haven't gotten new ones since I wrecked my old ones. Okay. I'll just read from here, because that is a little too far away. Or your goggles. It's just, I don't like the way things reflect on them. You know? Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Okay. Alright. Sorry about all the delay. That was horrendous. Kindle is having a conniption. If you stuck around through all that troubleshooting, you're better than the other people. let's dive into this. There's a few, I think like 4 chapters left or something, so good chance we'll finish tonight. And then I would like to do a bit of ASMR triggers after that. Probably not super late because I have a bunch of editing to do after stream, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, this chapter is called Robin Hood Shoots Before Queen Eleanor, and as I said, if you'd like to read along with me, there is a pinned comment in the chat of both Twitch and YouTube. Are you okay? Both Twitch and YouTube, and yeah, you can read along. Okay. Here we go. Robin Hood shoots before Queen Eleanor. The high road stretched, white and dusty in the hot summer afternoon sun, and the trees stood motionless along the roadside. All across the meadowlands the hot air danced and quivered, and in the limpid waters of the lowland brook, spanned by a little stone bridge, the fish hung motionless above the yellow gravel, and the dragonfly sat quite still, perched upon the sharp tip of a spike of the rushes, with its wings glistening in the sun. Along the road, a youth came riding along a fair, milk-white barb, and the folk that he passed stopped and turned and looked after him, for never had so lovely a lad, or one so gaily clad, been seen in Nottingham before. Silent Storm, thank you for the follow. Welcome. He could not have been more than 16 years of age, and was as fair as any maiden. His long yellow hair flowed behind him as he rode along, all clad in silk and velvet, with jewels flashing and dagger jingling against the pommel of his saddle. And thus came the Queen's page, young Richard Partington, from famous London town, down into Nottinghamshire, upon Her Majesty's bidding, to seek Robin Hood in Sherwood Forest. The road was hot and dusty, and his journey had been long, for that day he had come all the way from Leicester town, a good 20 miles and more, wherefore young Partington was right glad when he saw before him a sweet little inn, all shady and cool beneath the trees, in front of the door of which a sign hung pendant, bearing the picture of a blue boar. Here he drew rein and called loudly for a pottle of Rhenish wine to be brought him, for stout country ale was too coarse a drink for this young gentleman. 5 lusty fellows sat upon the bench beneath the pleasant shade of the wide-spreading... Sorry. Lemon slut. Sorry. Lemon slut. Thank you for the tier 3 sub. Holy hell. Slut. Heard the word lusty and came running in. Lemon, how you doing? You learned your... What's your word for the night then, Hate Wheel? If it's not lusty, is it stout? Is it stout? Lemon slut, how you doing? It's so good to see you. That slut and lust are so close. They are the same letters. Yeah. It's almost like there's like something there. Yeah. Hi, Lily. Gonna go with yeoman, but maybe paid. We could go the whole chapter without hearing paid. We might also hear it a couple times, but that depends on how much you want to get yourself in trouble. All right. 5 lusty fellows sat upon the bench beneath the pleasant shade of the wide-spreading oak in front of the inn door, drinking ale and beer, and all stared amain at this fair and gallant lad. 2 of the stoutest of them were clothed in Lincoln green, and a great heavy oaken staff leaned against the gnarled oak tree trunk beside each fellow. The landlord came and brought a pottle of wine and a long, narrow glass upon a salver, which he held up to the page as he sat upon his horse. Young Partington poured forth the bright yellow wine, and holding the glass aloft, cried, "Here is to the health and long happiness of my royal mistress, the noble Queen Eleanor, and may my journey and her desirings soon have end, and I find a certain stout yeoman men call Robin Hood." At these words, all stared. But presently, the 2 stout yeomen in Lincoln green began whispering together. I think you should choose Lincoln green as your drinking word. Then one of the 2, whom Partington thought to be the tallest and stoutest fellow he had ever beheld, stood up and said, "What seekest thou of Robin Hood, Sir Page? And what does our good Queen Eleanor wish of him? I ask this of thee, not foolishly, but with reason, for I know somewhat of this stout yeoman." "And thou knowest aught of him, good fellow," said young Partington. "Thou wilt do great service to him and great pleasure to our royal queen by aiding me to find him." Then up spoke the other yeoman, who was a handsome fellow with sunburned face and nut-brown curling hair. "Thou hast an honest look, Sir Page, and our queen is kind and true to all stout yeomen. Methinks I and my friend here might safely guide thee to Robin Hood, for we know where he may be found. Yet I tell thee plainly, we would not, for all merry England, have aught of harm befall him." "Set thy mind at ease, I bring naught of ill with me," quoth Richard Partington. "I bring a kind message to him from our queen. Therefore, and you know where he is to be found, I pray you to guide me thither." Silent storm, heck yeah. Welcome in, and I'm so glad that you're getting cozy. Okay. Then the 2 yeomen looked at one another again, and the tall man said, "Surely it were safe to do this thing, Will," whereat the other nodded. Thereupon both arose, and the tall yeoman said, "We think thou art true, Sir Page, and meanest no harm. Therefore we will guide thee to Robin Hood, as thou dost wish." Then Partington paid his score, and the yeomen coming forward, they all straightway departed upon their way. Under the greenwood tree, in the cool shade that spread all around upon the sward, with flickering lights here and there, Robin Hood and many of his band lay upon the soft green grass, while Alan a Dale sang and played upon his sweetly sounding harp. All listened in silence, for young Alan's singing was one of the greatest joys in the world to them. But as they so listened, there came of a sudden the sound of a horse's feet, and presently Little John and Will Stutely came forth from the forest path into the open glade, young Richard Partington riding between them upon his milk-white horse. Alan was the... Is the rooster Alan a Dale? Really? Wow, he really got to glow down in the cartoon then. He's supposed to be like a young hot bard, and they made him like an old cock. I mean, look, I love the rooster in the cartoon, but very different vibes in terms of the character. No, I love him. It's just, yeah. Okay. The three came toward where Robin Hood sat, all the band staring with might and main, for never had they seen so gay a sight as this young page, nor one so richly clad in silks and velvets and gold and jewels. Then Robin arose and stepped forth to meet him, and Partington leapt from his horse, and doffing his cap of crimson velvet, met Robin as he came. "Now, welcome," cried Robin. "Now, welcome, fair youth, and tell me, I prithee, what bringeth one of so fair a presence, and clad in such noble garb, to our poor forest of Sherwood?" Then young Partington said, "If I err not, thou art the famous Robin Hood, and these thy stout band of outlawed yeomen. To thee I bring greetings from our noble queen Eleanor. Oft hath she heard thee spoken of, and thy merry doings hereabouts, and fain would she behold thy face. Therefore she bids me to tell thee that if thou wilt presently come to London town, she will do all in her power to guard thee against harm, and will send thee back safe to Sherwood Forest again. 4 days hence, in Finsbury Fields, our good King Henry, of great renown, holdeth a grand shooting match, and all the most famous archers of merry England will be thereat. Our queen would fain see thee strive with these, knowing that if thou wilt come, thou wilt, with little doubt, carry off the prize. Therefore she hath sent me with this greeting, and furthermore sends thee, as a sign of great goodwill, this golden ring from off her own fair thumb, which I give herewith into thy hands." Like, she wants, like, an affair with an outlaw, right? That seems crazy to be like, hey, I know that you're living with, like, a bunch of criminals, but, like, just come and perform for me. Like, I hear you shoot shaft like no one. Then Robin Hood bowed his head, and taking the ring, kissed it right royally, and then slipped it upon his little finger. Quoth he, "Sooner would I lose my life than this ring, and ere it departs from me, my hand shall be cold in death, or stricken off at the wrist. Fair Sir Page, I will do our queen's bidding, and will presently hie with thee to London. But, ere we go, I will feast thee here in the woodlands with the very best we have." "It may not be," said the page. "We have no time to tarry. Therefore get thyself ready straightway. And if there be any of thy band that thou wouldst take with thee, our queen bids me say that she will make them right welcome likewise." "Truly thou art right," quoth Robin, "and we have but short time to stay. Therefore I will get me ready presently. I will choose 3 of my men only to go with me, and these 3 shall be Little John, mine own true right-hand man, Will Scarlet, my cousin, and Eleanor Dale, my minstrel. Go, lads, and get ye ready straightway, and we will presently off with all the speed that we may. Thou, Will Stutely, shall be chief of the band while I am gone." Hi, Tyra. Then Little John and Will Scarlet and Eleanor Dale ran, leaping, full of joy, to make themselves ready, while Robin also prepared himself for the journey. After a while, they all 4 came forth, and a right fair sight they made, for Robin was clad in blue from head to foot, and Little John and Will Scarlet in good Lincoln green, and as for Alan a Dale, he was dressed in scarlet from the crown of his head to the toes of his pointed shoes. Each man wore beneath his cap a little head covering of burnished steel, set with rivets of gold, and underneath his jerkin a coat of linked mail, as fine as carded wool, yet so tough that no arrow could pierce it. Then, seeing all were ready, young Partington mounted his horse again, and the yeomen having shaken hands all around, the five departed upon their way. Oh, I'm so glad you're enjoying it, Silent Storm. Thank you. That night, they took up their inn in Melton Mowbray, in Leicestershire, and the next night they lodged at Kettering, in Northamptonshire, and the next at Bedford Town, and the next at St. Albans, in Hertfordshire. This place they left not long after the middle of the night, and travelling fast through the tender dawning of the summer day, when the dews lay shining on the meadows and faint mists hung in the dales, when the birds sang their sweetest and the cobwebs beneath the hedges glimmered like fairy cloth of silver, they came at last to the towers and walls of famous London town, while the morn was still young and all golden toward the east. And that really gives it a feeling of like how old this is, right? That they're calling it London town. Queen Eleanor sat in her royal bower, through the open casements of which poured the sweet yellow sunshine in great floods of golden light. All about her stood her ladies in waiting, chatting in low voices, while she herself sat dreamily where the mild air came softly drifting into the room, laden with the fresh perfumes of the sweet red roses that bloomed in the great garden beneath the wall. To her came one who said that her page, Richard Partington, and 4 stout yeomen waited her pleasure in the court below. Then Queen Eleanor arose joyously and bade them be straightway shown into her presence. Thus Robin Hood and Little John and Will Scarlet and Alan a Dale came before the Queen into her own royal bower. Then Robin kneeled before the Queen, with his hands folded upon his breast, saying in simple phrase, "Here I am." No, no. Saying in simple phrase, "Here am I, Robin Hood. Thou didst bid me to come, and lo, I do thy bidding. I give myself to thee as thy true servant, and will do thy commanding, even if it be to the shedding of the last drop of my life's blood." Why is he, like, so down for the Queen? When, like, his whole thing is, like, they live in the forest, they kill the king's deer illegally. Like, they hunt illegally. Like, he doesn't show a lot of respect for the king. Oh my god. Kindle is still trying to open. Oh my god, just stop, Kindle. Just go to sleep. You're having a hard day. Oh, Dyro, no. I hope you get over that soon. Kindle, please. But good Queen Eleanor smiled pleasantly upon him, bidding him to arise. Then she made them all be seated to rest themselves after their long journey. Rich food was brought them, and noble wines, and she had her own pages to wait upon the wants of the yeomen. At last, after they had eaten all they could, she began questioning them of their merry adventures. Then they told her all of the lusty doings herein spoken of, and among others that concerning the Bishop of Hereford and Sir Richard of the Lee, and how the bishop had abided 3 days in Sherwood Forest. She's just like getting them to admit to their crimes. At this, the queen and the ladies about her laughed again and again, for they pictured to themselves the stout bishop abiding in the forest and ranging the woods in lusty sport with Robin and his band. Then, when they had told all that they could bring to mind, the queen asked Alan to sing for her, for his fame as a minstrel had reached even to the court at London town. So, straightway, Alan took up his harp in his hand and, without more asking, touched the strings lightly till they all rang sweetly. Then he sang thus: gentle river, bright thy crystal waters flow, sliding where the aspens shiver, gliding where the lilies blow, singing over pebbled shallows, kissing blossoms bending low, breaking 'neath the dipping swallows, purpling where the breezes blow. Floating on thy breast forever, down thy current I could glide. Grief and pain should reach me never on thy bright and gentle tide. So my aching heart seeks thine, love, there to find its rest and peace. For through loving, bliss is mine, love, and my many troubles cease. So, like, that's about sex, right? Like, you could argue it's just about love, but I feel like that could be interpreted to being about sex. Alright, cool. Thus Alan sang, and as he sang, all eyes dwelled upon him, and not a sound broke the stillness. And even after he had done, the silence hung for a short spell, for a short space. So the time passed till the hour drew nigh for the holding of the great archery match in Finsbury Fields. Yes, but more poetic. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't time me out. A gay sight were famous Finsbury Fields on that bright and sunny morning of lusty summertime. Along the end of the meadow stood the booths for the different bands of archers, for the king's yeomen were divided into companies of 80 men, and each company had a captain over it. So, on the bright greensward stood 10 booths of striped canvas, a booth for each band of the royal archers, and at the peak of each fluttered a flag in the mellow air, and the flag was the color that belonged to the captain of each band. From the center booth hung the yellow flag of Tapus, the famous bow-bearer of the king. Next to it, on one hand, was the blue flag of Gilbert of the White Hand, and on the other, the blood-red pennant of stout young Clifton of Buckinghamshire. The 7 other archer captains were also men of great renown. Among them were Egbert of Kent and William of Southampton, but those first named were the most famous of all. And Cosmo Lord, thank you for the follow. Hello, hello. The noise of many voices in talk and laughter came from within the booths, and in and out around the attendants like ants about an anthill. Some bore ale and beer, and some bundles of bowstrings or sheaves of arrows. On each side of the archery range were rows upon rows of seats reaching high aloft, and in the center of the north side was a raised dais for the king and queen, shaded by canvas of gay colors and hung about with streaming silken pennants of red and blue and green and white. As yet, the king and queen had not come, but all the other benches were full of people, rising head above head high aloft till it made the eye dizzy to look upon them. 80 yards distant from the mark from which the archers were to shoot stood 10 fair targets, each target marked by a flag of the color belonging to the band that was to shoot thereat. So, all was ready for the coming of the king and queen. At last, a great blast of bugles sounded, and into the meadow came riding 6 trumpeters with silver trumpets, from which hung velvet banners heavy with rich workings of silver and gold thread. Behind these came stout King Henry upon a dapple-gray stallion, with his queen beside him upon a milk-white palfrey. On either side of them walked the yeomen of the guard, the bright sunlight flashing from the polished blades of the steel halberds they carried. Behind these came the court in a great crowd, so that presently all the lawn was alive with bright colors, with silk and velvet, with waving plumes and gleaming gold, with flashing jewels and sword hilts. A gallant sight on that bright summer day. Then all the people arose and shouted, so that their voices sounded like the storm upon the Cornish coast, when the dark waves run upon the shore and leap and break, surging amid the rocks. So, amid the roaring and the surging of the people, and the waving of scarfs and kerchiefs, the king and queen came to their place, and, getting down from their horses, mounted the broad stairs that led to the raised platform, and there took their seats upon 2 thrones, bedecked with purple silks and cloths of silver and of gold. When all was quiet, a bugle sounded, and straightway the archers came marching in order from their tents. 40 they were in all, as stalwart a band of yeomen as could be found in all the wide world. So they came in orderly fashion and stood in front of the dais where King Henry and his queen sat. King Henry looked up and down their ranks right proudly, for his heart warmed within him at the sight of such a gallant band of yeomen. Then he bade his herald, Sir Hugh of Mowbray, stand forth and proclaim the rules governing the game. So Sir Hugh stepped to the edge of the platform and spoke in a loud, clear voice. And thus he said, "Good night, Buddha," said Sir Hugh. Good night, the Buddha." And thus he said that each man should shoot 7 arrows at the target that belonged to his band, and at the 80 yeomen of each band that the 3 that shot the best should be chosen. These 3 should shoot 3 arrows apiece, and the one that shot the best should again be chosen. Then each of these should again shoot 3 arrows apiece, and the one that shot the best should have the first prize. The one that shot the next best should have the second, and the one that shot the next best should have the third prize. Each of the others should have fourscore silver pennies for his shooting. The first prize was to be 210 golden pounds, a silver bugle horn inlaid with gold, and a quiver with 10 white arrows tipped with gold and feathered with the white swan's wing therein. The second prize was to be 50 of the fattest bucks that run on Dallin to be shot when the yeoman that won them chose. The third prize was to be 2 tons of good Rhenish wine. So, Sir Hugh spoke, and when he had done, all the archers waved their bows aloft and shouted. Then each band turned and marched in order back to its place. And now the shooting began, the captains first taking stand and speeding their shafts, and then making room for the men who shot, each in turn, after them. 280 score shafts were shot in all, and so deftly were they sped, that when the shooting was done, each target looked like the back of a hedgehog when the farm dog snuffs at it. A long time was taken in this shooting, and when it was over, the judges came forward, looked carefully at the targets, and proclaimed in a loud voice which 3 had shot the best from the separate bands. Then a great hubbub of voices arose, each man among the crowd that looked on calling for his favorite archer. Then 10 fresh targets were brought forward, and every sound was hushed as the archers took their places once more. This time the shooting was more speedily done, for only 9 shafts were shot by each band. Not an arrow missed the targets, but in that of Gilbert of the White Hand, 5 arrows were in the small white spot that marked the center. Of these 5, 3 were sped by Gilbert. Then the judges came forward again, and looking at the targets, called aloud the names of the archer chosen as the best bowman of each band. Of these, Gilbert of the White Hand led, for 6 of the 10 arrows he had shot had lodged in the center. But the stout Tapis and young Clifton trod close upon his heels, yet the others stood a fair chance for the 2nd or 3rd place. And now, amid the roaring of the crowd, those 10 stout fellows that were left went back to their tents to rest for a while and change their bowstrings. For naught must fail at this next round, and no hand must tremble or eye grow dim because of weariness. Then, while the deep buzz and hum of talking sounded all around, like the noise of the wind in the leafy forest, Queen Eleanor turned to the king, and quoth she, "Thinkest thou that these yeomen so chosen are the very best archers in all merry England?" "Yea, truly," said the king, smiling, for he was well pleased with the sport that he had seen. "And I tell thee that not only are they the best archers in all merry England, but in all the wide world beside." I doubt that, but... Oh yeah, Cosmo Lord. So whenever I'm reading, it should be pinned at the top of chat, but also you can always use !book as a command, and it will bring up what we're reading and the link to download it. Yeah, I was just thinking, like, have them go up against some, like, Mongolian horseback archers. Do you know what I mean? No doubt they're very good, though. Yeah. Okay. "But what wouldst thou say," quoth Queen Eleanor, "if I were to find 3 archers to match the best 3 yeomen of thy guard?" "I would say thou hast done what I could not do," said the king, laughing, for I tell thee, there lives not in all the world 3 archers to match Tapis and Gilbert and Clifton of Buckinghamshire. Now, said the queen, I know of 3 yeomen, and in truth I have seen them not long since, that I would not fear to match against any 3 that thou canst choose from among thy 40 archers. And, moreover, I will match them here this very day. But I will only match them with thy archers, providing that thou wilt grant a free pardon to all that may come in my behalf. At this, the king laughed loud and long. Truly, said he, thou art taking up with strange matters for a queen. If thou wilt bring those 3 fellows that thou speakest of, I will promise faithfully to give them free pardon for 40 days, or to come and to go wheresoever they please, nor will I harm a hair of their heads in all that time. Moreover, if these that thou bringest shoot better than my yeomen, man for man, they shall have the prizes for themselves, according to their shooting. But, as thou hast so taken up of a sudden with sports of this kind, hast thou a mind for a wager? Why, in sooth, said Queen Eleanor, laughing, well, I know naught of such matters. But, if thou hast a mind to do somewhat in that way, I will strive to pleasure thee. What wilt thou wager upon thy men? Then the merry king laughed again, for he dearly loved goodly jest. So he said, amidst his laughter, I will wager thee 10 tons of Rhenish wine, 10 tons of the stoutest ale, and 10 score bows of tempered Spanish yew, with quivers and arrows to match. All that stood around smiled at this, for it seemed a merry wager for a king to give to a queen. But Queen Eleanor bowed her head quietly. I will take thy wager, said she, for I know right well where to place those things that thou hast spoken of. Now, who will be on my side in this matter? And she looked around upon them that stood about, but no one spake or cared to wager upon the queen's side against such archers as Tapis and Gilbert and Clifton. Then the queen spoke again. Now, who will back me in this wager? Wilt thou, my lord bishop of Hereford? Nay, quoth the bishop hastily, it ill befits one of my cloth to deal in such matters. Moreover, there are no such archers as his majesty's in all the world. Therefore I would but lose my money. Methinks the thought of thy gold weighteth more heavily with thee than the wrong to thy cloth, said the queen, smiling. Oh, she's sassy, I like her. And at this a ripple of laughter went around, for everyone knew how fond the bishop was of his money. Then the queen turned to a knight who stood near, whose name was Sir Robert Lee. Wilt thou back me in this matter? Said she. Thou art surely rich enough to risk so much for the sake of a lady. To pleasure my queen I will do it, said Sir Robert Lee, but for the sake of no other in all the world would I wager a groat, for no man can stand against Tapis and Gilbert and Clifton. Then, turning to the king, Queen Eleanor said, Well, I want no such aid as Sir Robert giveth me, but against thy wine and beer and stout bows of yew, I wager this girdle, all set with jewels from around my waist, and surely that is worth more than thine. Now I take thy wager, quoth the king. Send for thy archers straightway. But here come forth the others. Let them shoot, and then I will match those that win against all the world. So be it, said the queen. Thereupon, beckoning to young Richard Partington, she whispered something in his ear, and straightway the page bowed and left the place, crossing the meadow to the other side of the range, where he was presently lost in the crowd. At this, all that stood around whispered to one another, wondering what it all meant, and what 3 men the queen was about to set against those famous archers of the king's guard. And now, the 10 archers of the king's guard took their stand again, and all the great crowd was hushed to the stillness of death. Slowly and carefully, each man shot his shafts, and so deep was the silence that you could hear every arrow rap against the target as it struck it. Then, when the last shaft had sped, a great roar went up, and the shooting, I wot, was well worthy of the sound. Once again, Gilbert had lodged 3 arrows in the white, and 1 in the black ring next to it. But stout Clifton had gone down, and Hubert of Suffolk had taken the 3rd place, for while both of those 2 good yeomen had lodged 2 in the white, Clifton had lost 1 upon the 4th ring, and Hubert came in with 1 in the 3rd. All the archers around Gilbert's booth shouted for joy till their throats were hoarse, tossing their caps aloft and shaking hands with one another. Hi, Moonstar, welcome back. It's your birthday. Happy birthday, Moonstar. Happy birthday. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, it's Dayma just came to say hi. Well, it's lovely to see you. I hope your birthday's going really well. When is Robin Hood gonna stop playing? They're not even in the competition yet. They're waiting for the word from the Queen. In the midst of all the noise and hubbub, 5 men came walking across the lawn toward the King's pavilion. The first was Richard Partington, and was known to most folk there. But the others were strange to everybody. Beside young Partington walked a yeoman clad in blue, and behind came 3 others, 2 in Lincoln green and 1 in scarlet. This last yeoman carried 3 stout bows of yew tree, 2 fancifully inlaid with silver, and 1 with gold. While these 5 men came walking across the meadow, a messenger came running from the King's booth and summoned Gilbert and Tapis and Hubert to go with him. And now the shouting quickly ceased, for all saw that something unwonted was toward, so the folk stood up in their places and leaned forward to see what was the ado. When Partington and the others came before the spot where the King and Queen sat, the 4 yeomen bent their knees and doffed their caps unto her. King Henry leaned far forward and stared at them closely. But the Bishop of Hereford, when he saw their faces, started as though stung by a wasp. He opened his mouth as though about to speak, but looking up, he saw the Queen gazing at him with a smile upon her lips. So he said nothing, but bit his nether lip, while his face was as red as a cherry. Then the Queen leaned forward and spake in a clear voice. "Locksley," said she, "I have made a wager with the King that thou and 2 of thy men can outshoot any 3 that he can send against you. Wilt thou do thy best for my sake?" "Yea," quoth Robin Hood, to whom she spoke, "I will do my best for thy sake, and if I fail, I will make my vow never to finger bowstring more." I know Locksley feels so, intimate, even though it's actually, less intimate. It's just the town where he's from. Now, although Little John had been somewhat abashed in the Queen's bower, he can what? He'll never finger again if he loses. That would be a sad, sad day. Now, although Little John had been somewhat abashed in the Queen's bower, he felt himself the sturdy fellow he was when the soles of his feet pressed green grass again. So he said boldly, "Now, blessings on thy sweet face, say I. and there lived a man that would not do his best for thee. I will say not, only I would like to have the cracking of his knave's pate. Peace, Little John, said Robin Hood hastily in a low voice, but good Queen Eleanor laughed aloud, and a ripple of merriment sounded all over the booth. Pate? You got a pate? Yeah. The Bishop of Hereford did not laugh. Neither did the king, but he turned to the queen, and quoth he, Who are these men that thou hast brought before us? Then up spoke the bishop hastily, for he could hold his peace no longer. Your Majesty, quoth he, yon fellow in blue is a certain outlawed thief of the mid-country, named Robin Hood. Yon tall strapping villain goeth by the name of Little John. The other fellow in green is a certain backsliding gentleman known as Will Scarlet. The man in red is a rogue of a northern minstrel named Eleanor. At this speech, the king's brows drew together blackly, and he turned to the queen. Is this true? Yea, said the queen, smiling. The bishop hath told the truth, and truly he should know them well, for he and 2 of his friars spent 3 days in merry sport with Robin Hood in Sherwood Forest. I did little think that the good bishop would so betray his friends. But bear in mind that thou hast pledged thy promise for the safety of these good yeomen for 40 days. I will keep my promise, said the king, in a deep voice that showed the anger in his heart. But when these 40 days are gone, let this outlaw look to himself, for mayhap things will not go so smoothly with him as he would like. Then he turned to his archers, who stood near the Sherwood yeomen, listening and wondering at all that passed. Quoth he, Gilbert, and thou, Tapis, and thou, Hubert, I have pledged myself that ye shall shoot against these 3 fellows. If ye outshoot the knaves, I will fill your caps with silver pennies. If ye fail, ye shall lose your prizes that ye have won so fairly, and they go to them that shoot against you, man to man. Do your best, lads, and if you win this bout, you shall be glad of it to the last days of your life. Now go, and get you gone to the butts. Sorry, I tried not to giggle. I saw it was coming, and I was like, don't giggle. Keep it together. Get you gone to the butts. It's a bit unfair though, because these other guys have already gone through like a whole tournament, and like Robin and his men are fresh. Oh Lord. Yeah, they've shot a lot of arrows already. I don't know how fatiguing archery is, really. Okay. Then the 3 archers of the king turned and went back to their booths, and Robin and his men went to their places at the mark from which they were to shoot. Then they strung their bows and made themselves ready, looking over their quivers of arrows and picking out the roundest and the best feathered. But when the king's archers went to their tents, they told their friends all that had passed, and how these 4 men were the famous Robin Hood and 3 of his band, to wit, Little John, Will Scarlet, and Eleanor. The news of this buzzed around among the archers in the booths, for there was not a man there that had not heard of these great mid-country yeomen. From the archers, the news was taken up by the crowd that looked on at the shooting, so that at last everybody stood up, craning their necks to catch sight of the famous outlaws. 6 fresh targets were now set up, one for each man that was to shoot, whereupon Gilbert and Tapis and Hubert came straightway forth from the booths. Then Robin Hood and Gilbert of the White Hand tossed a farthing aloft to see who should lead in the shooting, and the lot fell to Gilbert's side. Thereupon he called upon Hubert of Suffolk to lead. Hubert took his place, planted his foot firmly, and fitted a fair, smooth arrow. Then, breathing upon his fingertips, he drew the string slowly and carefully. The arrow sped true and lodged in the white. Again he shot, and again he hit the clout. A third shaft he sped, but this time failed of the center, and but struck the black, yet not more than a finger's breadth from the white. At this a shout went up, for it was the best shooting that Hubert had yet done that day. Merry Robin laughed, and quoth he, "Thou wilt have an ill time bettering that round, Will, for it is thy turn next. Brace thy thews, lad, and bring not shame upon Sherwood." Then Will Scarlet took his place, but because of over-caution, he spoiled his target with the very first arrow that he sped, for he hit the next ring to the black, the second from center. At this, Robin bit his lips. "Lad, lad," quoth he, "hold not the string so low. Have I not often told thee what Gaffer Swanthold saith, that over-caution spilleth the milk?" To this, Will Scarlet took heed, so the next arrow he shot lodged fairly in the center ring. Again he shot, and again he smote the center. But for all that, stout Hubert had outshot him, and showed the better target. Then all those that looked on clapped their hands for joy, because that Hubert had overcome the stranger. Quoth the king grimly to the queen, "If thy archers shoot no better than that, thou art like to lose thy wager, lady." But Queen Eleanor smiled, for she looked for better things from Robin Hood and Little John. So I'm still a little confused about her motives, because when she and the king were like joking before he found out who the men were, I was like, okay, she knows that he likes a joke and a bet, and she's doing it just because like that's their sense of humor. But he's really upset that it is these men and that she's tricked him, and she doesn't seem surprised by that. So I'm just, is she trying to piss off her husband? I'm not sure what her motive is. She wants to overthrow him. Yeah, I don't know. I guess let's see. We'll find out. And now Tapis took his place to shoot. He also took overheed to what he was about, and so he fell into Will Scarlet's error. The first arrow he struck into the center ring, but the second missed its mark and smote the black. The last arrow was tipped with luck, for it smote the very center of the clout, upon the black spot that marked it. Devkit? Oh my goodness, Devkit! Thank you for choosing to drop your Prime here. Wait, 24 months! 2 years! Devkit! Let's fucking go! Oh my goodness, Devkit, thank you for the 2 years of subs. That is so amazing. Thank you, thank you. If you're still here by the time we get to the reading, of course I would love to do a name trace for you. Man, that's crazy. Like, I know people have, it still just like surprises me when I see numbers like that. Anyway, that means a lot, Devkit. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Trying to make a point to King Henry? Maybe. I'm just not sure what it is. 2 years and a prime, right? I know. Okay. Okay. Also, does the word clout, as we use it, did that come from archery? They're saying the center spot in an archery target is called the clout. We talk about like getting clout as in like reputation, but like positive reputation or like credibility, right? I guess if you hit the clout a lot, you have credibility as an archer. Does it come from that? Is that the etymology? Oh wait, no, this is saying, oh shut up AI, I don't want to check you, I want to check an actual dictionary. Okay. From Old English clut, lump of something, also patch of cloth put over a hole to mend it. In later use, also a handkerchief or a woman's sanitary napkin. The sense of a blow is from the early 14th century, from the verb. The slang sense of personal influence came about in 1946 in American English on the notion of punch or force. And then the verb, clout, to beat or strike with the hand. Perhaps the notion of someone hitting someone with a lump of something, or from the patch of cloth sense of that word. Compare clout to patch, mend. Yeah. I can see that being because like the center is like a patch of cloth that you also hit with an arrow, so I can kind of see like how these kind of come together for, so this, the archery target would not have been the original use of it, but I understand why they used that word for the archery target. Clout archery is a specific kind of target archery? Oh, okay. The butt has a layer of cloth stretched over it. Yeah, the butt has a sanitary napkin, and these guys are shooting their shafts. Where you throw out a handkerchief that you aim for at a distance on the ground. Right. Now whenever someone says they have a lot of clout, I'm just gonna think of them like sitting on a throne of like pads. And now I'm giving you all that mental image, so you'll all think about it too. If you do something for the clout, you get Kotex, yeah. Hi, Skior. Yeah, we say bullseye now. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, sorry. Slight deviation for etymology. I know! It's really exciting. They're having a tussle. Lord! Tussle behind the stocking. Why do they make the loud noises? They had a moment. Yeah. Ghost train. Okay, sorry. Let's jump back in. The word clout indeed refers to cloth or leather stretched over the butt to denote the bullseye. There we go. You saw, yeah, they were like fighting behind the stocking. Okay. Alright. And now Tapis took his place to shoot. He also took overheed to what he was about, and so he fell into Will Scarlet's error. The first arrow. Wait. I already read this. Sorry. Yeah, the last arrow was tipped with black for its mouth, the very center of the cloud upon the black spot that marked it. Okay. Quoth Robin Hood, that is the sweetest shot that hath been sped this day. But, nevertheless, friend Tapis, thy cake is burned, methinks. Little John, it is thy turn next. So, Little John took his place as bidden and shot his 3 arrows quickly. He never lowered his bow arm in all the shooting, but fitted each shaft with his longbow raised. Yet all 3 of his arrows smote the center within easy distance of the black. At this, no sound of shouting was heard, for although it was the best shooting that had been done that day, the folk of London town did not like to see the stout Tapis overcome by a fellow from the countryside, even were he as famous as Little John. And now, stout Gilbert of the White Hand took his place and shot with the greatest care. And again, for the 3rd time in one day, he struck all 3 shafts into the cloud. Well done, Gilbert, quoth Robin Hood, smiting him upon the shoulder. I make my vow, thou art one of the best archers that ever mine eyes beheld. Thou shouldst be a free and merry ranger like us, lad, for thou art better fitted for the greenwood than for the cobblestones and grey walls of London town. Not Robin trying to poach the king's own yeomen to come and be his merry men. He's like running like a MLM out of Sherwood Forest. But have you heard? You'll get 3 sets of clothing all in Lincoln Green. What's an MLM? Multi-level marketing, a pyramid scheme. Where you just try to recruit a lot of people. Okay. So saying, he took his place and drew a fair, round arrow from his quiver, which he turned over and over, ere he fitted it to his bowstring. Then the king muttered in his beard, Now, blessed Saint Hubert, if thou wilt but jog that rogue's elbow so as to make him smite even the 2nd ring, I will give 80 waxen candles 3 fingers' breadth in thickness to thy chapel, nigh matching. But it may be Saint Hubert's ears were stuffed with tow, for he seemed not to hear the king's prayer this day. Having gotten 3 shafts to his liking, merry Robin looked carefully to his bowstring ere he shot. Yea, quoth he to Gilbert, who stood nigh him to watch his shooting, thou shouldst pay us a visit at merry Sherwood. Here he drew the bowstring to his ear. In London, here he loosed his shaft, thou canst find naught to shoot at but rocks and daws. There one can tickle the ribs of the noblest stags in England. So he shot, even while he talked. Yet the shaft lodged not more than half an inch from the very center. By my soul, cried Gilbert, art thou the devil in blue, to shoot in that wise? Nay, quoth Robin, laughing, not quite so ill as that, I trust. And he took up another shaft and fitted it to the string. Again he shot, and again he smote his arrow close beside the center. And a 3rd time he loosed his bowstring and dropped his arrow just betwixt the other 2 and into the very center, so that the feathers of all 3 were ruffled together, seeming from a distance to be one thick shaft. And now a low murmur ran all among that great crowd, for never before had London seen such shooting as this, and never again would it see it after Robin Hood's day had gone. All saw that the king's archers were fairly beaten, and stout Gilbert clapped his palm to Robin's, owning that he could never hope to draw such a bowstring as Robin Hood or Little John. But the king, full of wrath, would not have it so, though he knew in his mind that his men could not stand against those fellows. "Nay," cried he, clenching his hands upon the arms of his seat, "Gilbert is not yet beaten. Did he not strike the clout thrice? Although I have lost my wager, he hath not yet lost the first prize. They shall shoot again, and still again, till either he or that knave Robin Hood cometh off the best. Go thou, Sir Hugh, and bid them shoot another round, and another, until one or the other is overcome." Then Sir Hugh, seeing how wroth the king was, said never a word, but went straightway to do his bidding. So he came to where Robin Hood and the others stood, and told them what the king had said. No, not stuffed his ears with toes. Toe, which is like, isn't it like waxy, like lard, or... No, not that kind of towing. Oh, no, I was wrong. It is broken fiber, like flax, hemp, synthetic material. So stuffed cloth in his ears. It's saying, it's a very rough cloth. Yeah. It can also be used to mean rope. Well, I wonder if that's why we get like towing. Because you would tow with a rope or a chain, right? Like, I wonder if it comes from there. No. Flax is used for a bowstring? Really? For a bowstring? Okay. La-dee-da-dee-da-dee-da. "Oh, with all my heart," quoth merry Robin, "I will shoot from this time till tomorrow day, if it can pleasure my most gracious lord and king. Take thy place, Gilbert, lad, and shoot." So Gilbert took his place once more, but this time he failed. For a sudden little wind arising, his shaft missed the center ring, but not by more than the breadth of a barley straw. "Thy eggs are cracked, Gilbert," quoth Robin, laughing, and straightway he loosed a shaft, and once more smote the white circle of the center. Then the king arose from his place, and not a word said he, but he looked around with a baleful look, and it would have been an ill day for anyone that he saw with a joyous or merry look upon his face. Then he and his queen and all the court left the place, but the king's heart was brimming with wrath. After the king had gone, all the yeomen of the archer guard came crowding around Robin and Little John and Will and Alan to snatch a look at these famous fellows from the mid-country, and with them came many that had been onlookers at the sport for the same purpose. Thus it happened presently that the yeomen, to whom Gilbert stood talking, were all surrounded by a crowd of people that formed a ring about them. Can I just say, like, big W to the king's yeomen? They are really, like, Gilbert is a really good loser here. Like, he's just being great about it. I thought he'd get, like, super snotty or whatever. The king's throwing a tantrum, but the actual archers are being super cool about it. After a while, the three judges that had the giving away of the prizes came forward, And the chief of them all spake to Robin and said, Well, according to agreement, the first prize belongeth rightly to thee. So here I give thee the silver bugle, here the quiver of 10 golden arrows, and here a purse of 210 golden pounds. And as he spake, he handed these things to Robin, and then turned to Little John. To thee, he said, belongeth the second prize, to wit, 50 of the finest hearts that run on Dallin Lee. Thou mayest shoot them whensoever thou dost list. Last of all, he turned to stout Hubert. Thou, said he, hast held thine own against the yeomen with whom thou didst shoot, and so thou hast kept the prize duly. And so thou hast kept the prize duly thine, to wit, 2 tons of good Rhenish wine. These shall be delivered to thee whensoever thou dost list. Then he called upon the other 7 of the king's archers, who had last shot, and gave each 80 silver pennies. Well, that's kind of weird. It's like they had the 3, like, because they had a first, second, third place, right? And then they took Robin Hood and his men, who they had already kind of arranged, like Robin will shoot the first place winner and Little John will shoot against the second place winner and Will Scarlet against the third. And so since Robin beat his man, he gets first prize. Little John beats his man, he gets second prize. But then for third prize, since Will Scarlet lost that one, the third prize is going to the guy that originally won third prize instead of going to the guy who, do you know what I mean? Like, they didn't, like, surely the first prize shooter should then be getting the third prize. Do you know what I mean? It's just a weird way to do it. Then he called upon the other 7 of the king's archers, who had last shot, and gave each 80 silver pennies. Then up spake Robin, and quoth he, This silver bugle I keep in honour of this shooting match. But thou, Gilbert, art the best archer of all the king's guard, and to thee I freely give this purse of gold. Take it, man, and would it were 10 times as much, for thou art a right yeoman, good and true. Furthermore, to each of the 10 that last shot, I give one of these golden shafts apiece. Keep them always by you, so that ye may tell your grandchildren, and ye are ever blessed with them, that ye are the very stoutest yeomen in all the wide world. At this, all shouted aloud, for it pleased them to hear Robin speak so of them. Then up spake Little John. Well, good friend Tapis, said he, I would not want those hearts of Dallin Lee that yon stout judge spoke of but now, for in truth we have enow, and more than enow in our own country. 210 I give to thee for thine own shooting, and 5 I give to each band for their pleasure. At this another great shout went up, and many tossed their caps aloft, and swore among themselves that no better fellows ever walked the sod than Robin Hood and his stout yeomen. While they so shouted with loud voices, a tall, burly yeoman of the king's guard came forward and plucked Robin by the sleeve. Good master, quoth he, I have somewhat to tell thee in thine ear, a silly thing, God wot, for one stout yeoman to tell another, but a young peacock of a page, one Richard Partington, was seeking thee without avail in the crowd, and not being able to find thee, told me that he bore a message to thee from a certain lady that thou wottest of. This message he bade me tell thee privily, word for word, and thus it was. Let me see. I trust I have forgot it not. Oh no, wait, sorry. Let me see. I trust I have forgot it not. Yea, thus it was. The lion growls. Beware thy head. Is it so? Quoth Robin, starting, for he knew right well that it was the queen sent the message, and that she spake of the king's wrath. Now, I thank thee, good fellow, for thou hast done me a greater service than thou knowest of this day. Then he called his 3 yeomen together and told them privately that they had best be jogging, as it was like to be ill for them so nigh merry London town. So, without tarrying longer, they made their way through the crowd until they had come out from the press. Then, without stopping, they left London town and started away northward. End of chapter. Yeah, see, I'm still curious about the Queen's motives. Like, because I was considering, I was like, maybe she hates her husband and she wants to, like, get one over on him. But then they seem to be really getting along for a while, and he seemed to, like, they seem to enjoy each other's company. So I'm just not really sure what her motive is. Sci-Fi Sol, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. Hello. Hello. Should we jump into the next one? Poaching is what made Robin an outlaw, and he killed a man. That's what really made him an outlaw. He killed a deer, and then the dude was like, that's one of the king's deer, and tried to kill Robin Hood, but missed because he was drunk. The woodsman was drunk. And then Robin Hood shot back at him and did kill him. Shadowpop? Maybe she's in love with the fairy? Wait. The fairy? Let's read more. Yeah. Yeah, well, that was my original thought, is like, she just wants to meet, like, the hot outlaw. But then she was getting along really well with her husband, so then I was like, oh, okay, they just like to banter and play tricks on each other. But then he's really mad, and she doesn't seem surprised by that, so she knew it would piss him off. So, like, yeah. Maybe they're thinking of Fox Robin Hood and meant furry. Oh, maybe. Is that what you meant? Shadowpop? Who did Robin Hood get his bow from? Sounds like he stole it from the yeoman. No, it was gifted to him, like his fancy one that he has. It was gifted to him by the knight that he lent that money to, and therefore that knight was able to save his castle and lands. And when, right? Am I remembering that correctly? The knight comes back and, like, repays him and gives them all, like, really fancy bows. And, like, all the bows for, like, the rest of the yeomen in Sherwood are inlaid with silver, and Robin's is inlaid with gold. It was a gift. Yeah, that is what you meant. Okay. Maybe it's just her way of amusing herself at the expense of others. Yeah, maybe, but, like, it seems like she wants to, like, she was trying to kind of embarrass the king a little bit. A golden bow. No, it was Spanish yew with gold inlay, and it specifically said that the inlay was not too much or too deep so as not to weaken the structural integrity of the bow. Like, it specifically was like, don't worry. It's still a strong bow. Okay. This next chapter is called The Chase of Robin Hood. So, Robin Hood and the others left the archery range at Finsbury Fields, and, tarrying not, set forth straightway upon their homeward journey. It was well for them that they did so, for they had not gone more than 3 or 4 miles upon their way, when 6 of the yeomen of the King's Guard came bustling among the crowd that still lingered, seeking for Robin and his men to seize upon them and make them prisoners. Truly, it was an ill-done thing in the king to break his promise, but it all came about through the Bishop of Hereford's doing, for thus it happened. After the king left the archery ground, he went straightway to his cabinet, and with him went the Bishop of Hereford and Sir Robert Lee. But the king said never a word to these two, but sat gnawing his nether lip, for his heart was galled within him by what had happened. At last the Bishop of Hereford spoke in a low, sorrowful voice. "It is a sad thing, your majesty, that this knavish outlaw should be let to escape in this wise. For let him but get back to Sherwood Forest safe and sound, and he may snap his fingers at king and king's men." At these words the king raised his eyes and looked grimly upon the bishop. "Sayest thou so?" quoth he. "Now I will show thee in good time how much thou dost err. For when the 40 days are past and gone, I will seize upon this thieving outlaw. If I have to tear down all of Sherwood to find him, thinkest thou that the laws of the King of England are to be so evaded by one poor knave without friends or money?" Then the bishop spoke again in his soft, smooth voice. I have not been giving him a soft, smooth voice. Oops. In his soft, smooth voice. "Forgive my boldness, your majesty, and believe that I have naught but the good of England and your majesty's desirings at heart. But what would it boot, though my gracious lord did root up every tree of Sherwood? Are there not other places for Robin Hood's hiding? Cannock Chase is not far from Sherwood, and the great forest of Arden is not far from Cannock Chase. Besides these are many other woodlands in Nottingham and Derby, Lincoln and York, amid any of which your majesty might as well think to seize upon Robin Hood as to lay a finger upon a rat among the dust and broken things of a garret. Nay, my gracious lord, if he doth once plant foot in the woodland, he is lost to the law forever." Hi, Connor. And I am energized. Welcome to chat. Hello, hello. We hate this bishop. We hate this bishop. At these words, the king tapped his fingertips upon the table beside him with vexation. "What wouldst thou have me do, bishop?" quoth he. "Didst thou not hear me pledge my word to the queen? Thy talk is as barren as the wind from the bellows upon dead coals." "Far be it from me," said the cunning bishop, "to point the way to one so clear-sighted as your majesty, but were I the King of England, I should look upon the matter in this wise. I have promised my queen, let us say, that for 40 days the cunningest rogue in all England shall have freedom to come and go. But, lo, I find this outlaw in my grasp. Shall I then foolishly cling to a promise so hastily given? Or suppose that I had promised to do her majesty's bidding, whereupon she bade me to slay myself. Should I then shut mine eyes and run blindly upon my sword? Thus would I argue within myself. Moreover, I would say unto myself, a woman knoweth not of the great things appertaining to state government. And likewise I know a woman is ever prone to take up a fancy, even as she would pluck a daisy from a roadside and then throw it away when the savour is gone. Therefore, though she hath taken a fancy to this outlaw, it will soon wane away and be forgotten. As for me, I have the greatest villain in all England in my grasp. Shall I then open my hand and let him slip betwixt my fingers? Thus, your majesty, would I say to myself, were I the King of England. So the bishop talked, and the king lent his ear to his evil counsel, until, after a while, he turned to Sir Robert Lee and bade him send 6 of the yeomen of the guard to take Robin Hood and his 3 men prisoners. No, he's just like, you know, he's very archetypal of the greedy, worldly man of God. You know, like the complete hypocrite. It's like a cliche at this point. Now, Sir Robert Lee was a gentle and noble knight, and he felt grieved to the heart to see the king so break his promise. Nevertheless, he said nothing, for he saw how bitterly the king was set against Robin Hood. But he did not send the yeoman of the guard at once, but went first to the queen and told her all that had passed, and bade her send word to Robin of his danger. This he did not for the well-being of Robin Hood, but because he would save his lord's honor if he could. Thus it came about that when, after a while, the yeoman of the guard went to the archery field, they found not Robin and the others, and so got no cakes at that fair. The afternoon was already well nigh gone when Robin Hood, Little John, Will, and Allan set forth upon their homeward way, trudging along merrily through the yellow slanting light, which speedily changed to rosy red as the sun sank low in the heavens. The shadows grew long and finally merged into the grayness of the mellow twilight. The dusty highway lay all white betwixt the dark hedgerows, and along it walked four fellows, like four shadows, the pat of their feet sounding loud, and their voices, as they talked, ringing clear upon the silence of the air. The great round moon was floating breathlessly up in the eastern sky when they saw before them the twinkling lights of Barnet town, some 10 or 12 miles from London. Down they walked through the stony streets and past the cozy houses with overhanging gables, before the doors of which sat the burghers and craftsmen in the mellow moonlight, with their families about them, and so came at last, on the other side of the hamlet, to a little inn, all shaded with roses and woodbines. Before this inn, Robin Hood stopped, for the spot pleased him well. Quoth he, "Here we will take up our inn and rest for the night, for we are well away from London town and our king's wrath. Moreover, if I mistake not, we will find sweet faring within. What say ye, lads?" "In sooth, good master," quoth Little John, "thy bidding and my doing ever fit together like cakes and ale. Let us in, I say also." Then up spake Will Scarlet, "I am ever ready to do what thou sayest, uncle. Yet I could wish that we were farther upon our way ere we rest for the night. Nevertheless, if thou thinkest best, let us in for the night, say I also." Oh, Shadowpop, thank you for the follow. So, in they went and called for the best that the place afforded. Then a right good feast was set before them, with 2 stout bottles of old sack to wash it down withal. These things were served by as plump and buxom a lass as you could find in all the land, so that Little John, who always had an eye for a fair lass, even when meat and drink were by, stuck his arms akimbo and fixed his eyes upon her, winking sweetly whenever he saw her looking toward him. Then you should have seen how the lass twittered with laughter, and how she looked at Little John out of the corners of her eyes, a dimple coming in either cheek, for the fellow had always a taking way with the womenfolk. So the feast passed merrily, and never had that inn seen such lusty feeders as these 4 stout fellows. But at last they were done their eating, though it seemed as though they would never have ended, and sat loitering over the sack. Oh, thanks, user not anonymous. I'm glad you like it. Plump and buxom, yeah. Yeah. She's thick, but in a curvy way. Highness, ma'am. As they did so, the landlord came in of a sudden and said that there was one at the door, a certain young esquire, Richard Partington, of the Queen's household, who wished to see the lad in blue and speak with him without loss of time. So Robin arose quickly and, bidding the landlord not to follow him, left the others gazing at one another and wondering what was about to happen. When Robin came out of the inn, he found young Richard Partington sitting upon his horse in the white moonlight, awaiting his coming. "What news bearest thou, Sir Page?" said Robin. "I trust that it is not of an ill nature." "Why," said young Partington, "for the matter of that, it is ill enow. The king hath been bitterly stirred up against thee by that vile Bishop of Hereford. He sent to arrest thee at the archery butts at Finsbury Fields, but not finding thee there, he hath gathered together his armed men, 50 score and more, and is sending them in haste along this very road to Sherwood, either to take thee on the way, or to prevent thy getting back to the woodlands again. He hath given the Bishop of Hereford command over all these men, and thou knowest what thou hast to expect of the Bishop of Hereford, short shrift and a long rope. 2 bands of horsemen are already upon the road, not far behind me. So thou wouldst best get thee gone from this place straightway, for if thou tarriest longer, thou art like to sleep this night in a cold dungeon. This word the Queen hath bidden me bring to thee." "Now, Richard Partington," quoth Robin, "this is the 2nd time that thou hast saved my life, and if the proper time ever cometh, I will show thee that Robin Hood never forgets these things. As for that Bishop of Hereford, if I ever catch him nigh to Sherwood again, things will be like to go ill with him. Thou mayest tell the good Queen that I will leave this place without delay, and will let the landlord think that we are going to St. Albans. But when we are upon the high road again, I will go one way through the country, and will send my men the other, so that if one falleth into the king's hands, the others may haply escape. We will go by devious ways, and so, I hope, will reach Sherwood in safety. And now, Sir Page, I wish thee farewell." "Farewell, thou bold yeoman," said young Partington, "and mayst thou reach thy hiding in safety." So each shook the other's hand, and the lad, turning his horse's head, rode back toward London, while Robin entered the inn once more. There he found his yeoman sitting in silence, waiting his coming. Likewise the landlord was there, for he was curious to know what Master Partington had to do with the fellow in blue. "Up, my merry men," quoth Robin, "this is no place for us, for those are after us with whom we will stand but an ill chance, and we fall into their hands. So we will go forward once more, nor will we stop this night till we reach St. Albans." Hereupon, taking out his purse, he paid the landlord his score, and so they left the inn. When they had come to the high road without the town, Robin stopped and told them all that had passed between young Partington and himself, and how that the king's men were after them with hot heels. Then he told them that here they should part company, they 3 going to the eastward, and he to the westward, and so, skirting the main high roads, would come by devious paths to Sherwood. "So be ye wily," said Robin Hood, "and keep well away from the northward roads till ye have gotten well to the eastward. And thou, Will Scarlet, take the lead of the others, for thou hast a cunning turn to thy wits." Then Robin kissed the 3 upon the cheeks, and they kissed him, and so they parted company. Not long after this, a score or more of the king's men came clattering up to the door of the inn at Barnet Town. Here they leapt from their horses and quickly surrounded the place, the leader of the band and the 4 others entering the room where the yeoman had been. But they found that their birds had flown again, and that the king had been balked a 2nd time. "Methought that they were naughty fellows," said the host, when he heard whom the men-at-arms sought. but I heard the blue-clad knave say that they would go straight forward to St. Albans. So when ye hurry forward, ye may, perchance, catch them on the high road betwixt here and there." For this news, the leader of the band thanked mine host right heartily, and, calling his men together, mounted and set forth again, galloping forward to St. Albans upon a wild goose chase. After Little John and Will Scarlet and Alan Adale had left the highway near Garnet, they traveled toward the eastward without stopping, as long as their legs would carry them, until they came to Chelmsford in Essex. Thence they turned northward and came through Cambridge in Lincolnshire to the good town of Gainsborough. Then, striking to the westward and the south, they came at last to the northern borders of Sherwood Forest, without in all that time having met so much as a single band of the king's men. 8 days they journeyed thus, ere they reached the woodlands in safety. But when they got to the greenwood glade, they found that Robin had not yet returned. For Robin was not as lucky in getting back as his men had been, as you shall presently hear. After having left the great northern road, he turned his face to the westward, and so came past Aylesbury to fair Woodstock in Oxfordshire. Thence he turned his footsteps northward, travelling for a great distance by way of Warwick town, till he came to Dudley in Staffordshire. 7 days it took him to journey thus far, and then he thought he had gotten far enough to the north, so turning toward the eastward, shunning the main roads and choosing byways and grassy lanes, he went by way of Lichfield and Ashby de la Zouche toward Sherwood, until he came to a place called Stanton. Longwood Frederick, welcome in. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. And now Robin's heart began to laugh aloud, for he thought that his danger had gone by, and that his nostrils would soon snuff the spicy air of the woodlands once again. But there is many a slip betwixt the cup and the lip, and this Robin was to find. For thus it was. When the king's men found themselves foiled at St. Albans, and that Robin and his men were not to be found high nor low, they knew not what to do. Well, presently another band of horsemen came, and another, until all the moonlit streets were full of armed men. Betwixt midnight and dawn, another band came to the town, and with them came the Bishop of Hereford. When he heard that Robin Hood had once more slipped out of the trap, he stayed not a minute, but gathering his bands together, he pushed forward to the northward with speed, leaving orders for all the troops that came to St. Albans to follow after him without tarrying. G-Torix? Am I saying that right? Thank you for the follow. Hello. Hello, hello. On the evening of the 4th day, he reached Nottingham town, and there straightway divided his men into bands of 6 or 7, and sent them all through the countryside, blocking every highway and byway to the eastward, and the southward, and the westward of Sherwood. The sheriff of Nottingham called forth all his men likewise, and joined with the bishop, for he saw that this was the best chance that had ever befallen of paying back his score in full to Robin Hood. Hi, Grizz. Welcome back. Good to see you again. Now, Will Scarlet and Little John and Alan Adale had just missed the king's men to the eastward, for the very next day after they had passed the line and entered Sherwood, the roads through which they had traveled were blocked, so that, had they tarried in their journeying, they would surely have fallen into the bishop's hands. But of all this, Robin knew not a whit, So he whistled merrily as he trudged along the road beyond Stanton, with his heart as free from care as the yolk of an egg is from cobwebs. Huh. At last he came to where a little stream spread across the road in a shallow sheet, tinkling and sparkling as it fretted over its bed of golden gravel. Here, Robin stopped, being athirst, and kneeling down, he made a cup of his palms of his hands. He made a cup of the palms of his hands and began to drink. On either side of the road, for a long distance, stood tangled thickets of bushes and young trees, and it pleased Robin's heart to hear the little birds singing therein, for it made him think of Sherwood, and it seemed as though it had been a lifetime since he had breathed in the air of the woodlands. But, of a sudden, as he thus stood, drinking, something hissed past his ear and struck with a splash into the gravel and water beside him. Quick as a wink, Robin sprang to his feet and at one bound crossed the stream and the roadside and plunged headlong into the thicket without looking around, for he knew right well that that which had hissed so venomously beside his ear was a grey goose shaft, and that to tarry so much as a moment meant death. Even as he leapt into the thicket, 6 more arrows rattled among the branches after him, one of which pierced his doublet and would have struck deeply into his side but for the tough coat of steel that he wore. Then up the road came riding some of the king's men at headlong speed. They leapt from their horses and plunged straightway into the thicket after Robin. But Robin knew the ground better than they did, so crawling here, stooping there, and anon running across some little open, he soon left them far behind, coming out at last upon another road about 800 paces distant from the one he had left. Here he stood for a moment, listening to the distant shouts of the 7 men as they beat up and down the thickets like hounds that had lost the scent of the quarry. Then, buckling his belt more tightly around his waist, he ran fleetly down the road toward the eastward and Sherwood. But Robin had not gone more than 3 furlongs in that direction when he came suddenly to the brow of a hill and saw beneath him another band of the king's men, seated in the shade along the roadside in the valley beneath. Then he paused not a moment, but seeing that they had not caught sight of him, he turned and ran back whence he had come, knowing it was better to run the chance of escaping those fellows that were yet in the thickets than to rush into the arms of those in the valley. So back he ran with all speed, and had gotten safely past the thickets, when the 7 men came forth into the open road. Oh, they raised a great shout when they saw him, such as the hunter gives when the deer breaks cover. But Robin was then a quarter of a mile and more away from them, coursing over the ground like a greyhound. He never slackened his pace, but ran along mile after mile till he had come nigh to Mackworth, over beyond the Derwent River, nigh to Derby town. Here, seeing that he was out of present danger, he slackened in his running, and at last sat him down beneath a hedge, where the grass was the longest and the shade the coolest, there to rest and catch his wind. "By my soul, Robin," quoth he to himself, "that was the narrowest miss that e'er thou hadst in all thy life. Oh, I do say most solemnly that the feather of that wicked shaft tickled mine ear as it whizzed past. The same running hath given me a most craving appetite for victuals and drink. Now I pray St. Dunstan that he send me speedily some meat and beer." Good night, Cassiax. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good night. Good to see you. Well, it seemed as though St. Dunstan was like to answer his prayer, for along the road came plodding a certain cobbler, one Quince of Derby, who had been to take a pair of shoes to a farmer nigh Kirk Langley, and was now coming back home again, with a fair boiled capon on his pouch, and a stout pottle of beer by his side, which same the farmer had given him for joy of such a stout pair of shoes. Such a stout pair of shoon. Good Quince was an honest fellow, but his wits were somewhat of the heavy sort, like unbaked dough, so that the only thing that was in his mind was 3 shillings 6pence halfpenny for thy shoon, good Quince. 3 shillings 6pence halfpenny for thy shoon. And this travelled round and round inside of his head without another thought getting into his noddle, as a pea rolls round and round inside an empty quart pot. Oh my god. These descriptions are hilarious. That's how we describe Nim, with a single pea flake bouncing around in her noggin. And also that his wits were like unbaked dough. Hi, Chomp, you gonna sleep? Just the single brain cell. Unbaked dough is so real, right? Aww. Well, hello, a good friend, quoth Robin from beneath the hedge, when the other had gotten nigh enough. Whither away so merrily this bright day? Hearing himself so called upon, the cobbler stopped, and, seeing a well-clad stranger in blue, he spoke to him in seemly wise. Give ye good den, fair sir, and I would say that I come from Kirk Langley, where I sold my shoon, and got 3 shillings 6pence halfpenny for them, in as sweet money as ever thou sawest, and honestly earned too, I would ha' thee know. But, an I may be so bold, thou pretty fellow, what dost thou there beneath the hedge? Marry, quoth merry Robin Hood. My queen Freya. Thank you for the follow. Marry, quoth merry Robin. I'm trying not to have the Mary merger. In, like, North American accents, the words Mary, Mary, Mary all sound the same, but Mary, marry, they're different words. Oh, thank you, Freya. Mary. Yeah, Mary, marry, Mary? I'm trying to pronounce them differently because they use these words a lot. Robin Hood is always described as Merry Robin Hood, Merry. But as like a figure of speech, they're always like marry, Marry. Yeah. Marry, quoth merry Robin, I sit beneath this hedge here to drop salt on the tails of golden birds. But in sooth thou art the first chick of any worth I have seen this blessed day. At these words, the cobbler's eyes opened big and wide, and his mouth grew round with wonder, like a knot-hole in a board fence. Slack a day, quoth he, look ye now, I had never seen those same golden birds. And dost thou in sooth find them in these hedges, good fellow? Prithee, tell me, are there many of them? I would fain find them mine own self. Ay, truly, quoth Robin, they are as thick here as fresh herring in Cannock Chase. Look ye now, said the cobbler, all drowned in wonder, and dost thou in sooth catch them by dropping salt on their pretty tails? Please don't take advantage of this poor cobbler. He's just doing an honest day's work, and is just taking all your words at face value. Marry? What if Mary married Mary Robin? Like, Robin is very obviously, like, euphemistically saying, I'm waiting for rich people to stroll by so I can, like, burgle them. And he's like, wow, there's actually golden birds in the hedge. Poor autistic Hobbit. Aww. Aww. Love a good burgling. No, I'm on Team Cobbler. You leave poor Quince alone. He's an honest cobbler. He's got a pure heart. He's just a pure little. He's just an innocent man. Just an innocent man. Okay. Yea, quoth Robin, but this salt is of an odd kind, let me tell thee, for it can only be gotten by boiling down a quart of moonbeams in a wooden platter, and then one hath but a pinch. But tell me now, thou witty man, what hast thou gotten there in that pouch by thy side, and in that pottle? At these words the cobbler looked down at those things of which merry Robin spoke. The thoughts of the golden bird had driven them from his mind, and it took him some time to scrape the memory of them back again. Why, said he at last, in the one is good March beer, and in the other is a fat capon. Truly, Quince the cobbler will have a fine feast this day, and I mistake not. But tell me, good Quince, said Robin, hast thou a mind to sell those things to me? For the hearing of them sounds sweet in mine ears. I will give thee these gay clothes of blue that I have upon my body, and 10 shillings to boot, for thy clothes and thy leather apron, and thy beer and thy capon. What sayest thou, blue boy? Nay, thou dost jest with me, said the cobbler, for my clothes are coarse and patched, and thine are of fine stuff, and very pretty. Never a jest do I speak, quoth Robin. Come, strip thy jacket off, and I will show thee, for I tell thee I like thy clothes well. Moreover, I will be kind to thee, for I will feast straightway upon the good things thou hast with thee, and thou shalt be bidden to the eating. At these words he began slipping off his doublet, and the cobbler, seeing him so in earnest, began pulling off his clothes also, for Robin Hood's garb tickled his eye. So each put on the other fellow's clothes, and Robin gave the honest cobbler 10 bright new shillings. Okay, yeah. He's given him money, he's given him nicer clothes, and he's letting him share the food. Okay, cool. Cool. Alright. Heard there was book here? Hell yeah, DJ. Over on the YouTube side. Double story streams do come to YouTube. Thanks so much for watching on the YouTube, helping out with the watch hours. Quoth merry Robin, I've seen many things in my life before, but never have I been an honest cobbler. Oh, I've been a many things in my life before, but never have I been an honest cobbler. Come, friend, let us fall to and eat, for something within me cackles aloud for that good fat capon. So both sat down and began to feast right lustily, so that when they were done, the bones of the capon were picked as bare as charity. Then Robin stretched his legs out with a sweet feeling of comfort within him. Quoth he, By the turn of thy voice, good Quince, I know that thou hast a fair song or two running loose in thy head, like colts in a meadow. I prithee, turn one of them out for me. A song or two I have, quoth the cobbler. Poor things, but such as they are, thou art welcome to one of them. So moistening his throat with a swallow of beer, he sang, "Of all the joys the best I love, sing hey, my frisking Nan." I'm just picturing a really frisky grandma. I don't know if that's what it... Bedtime for you? Okay, good night, Fidge. Good night, Fidge. Thanks for hanging out. Of all the joys the best I love, sing hey, my frisking Nan. Oh, and that which most my soul doth move, it is the clinking can. No, all other bliss I throw away, sing hey, my frisking Nan. No, but this... The stout cobbler got no further into his song, for of a sudden 6 horsemen burst upon... 6 horsemen... Sorry. Let me try that again. For of a sudden 6 horsemen burst upon them where they sat, and seized roughly upon the honest craftsman, hauling him to his feet, and nearly plucking the clothes from him as they did so. Wait, no! No! Not the poor pea-brain cobbler. "Ha!" roared the leader of the band in a great big voice of joy. "Have we then caught thee at last, thou blue-clad knave? Now blessed be the name of St. Hubert, for we are 80 pounds richer this minute than we were before, for the good Bishop of Hereford hath promised that much to the band that shall bring thee to him. Oho, thou cunning rascal, thou wouldst look so innocent, forsooth. We know thee, thou old fox. But off thou goest with us, to have thy brush clipped forthwith." At these words, the poor cobbler gazed all around him, with his great blue eyes as round as those of a dead fish. It is Nim. This is just Nim as a cobbler. Well, his mouth gaped as though he had swallowed all his words, and so lost his speech. Oh my god, he's so stressed out he's gone nonverbal. This is like a hate crime happening. I feel really bad for this cobbler. Yeah, there's the cobbler. And then the white one, that's Robin Hood. Like this cobbler is coming across, you know, kind of neurodivergent, and like he's struggling, and he's just been rendered like nonverbal. This is sad. Oh, okay. Hopefully Robin will come in clutch and get them both out of it. I'm sorry, Pyrrhus. Your message got held up by Automod for bullying. Pyrrhus just wrote, "Fuck Robin Hood, he's a bitch." I don't know why that made me laugh so much. No, maybe he'll get them both out of it. I don't know, man. Okay. Robin also gaped and stared in a wondering way, just as the cobbler would have done in his place. "Alack a daisy me," quoth he, "I know not whether I be sitting here or in no man's land. What meaneth all this stir of the pot, dear good gentleman? Surely this is a sweet honest fellow." "Honest fellow, sayest thou, clown?" quoth one of the men. "Why, I tell thee that this is that same rogue that men call Robin Hood." At this speech, the cobbler stared and gaped more than ever, for there was such a threshing of thoughts going on within his poor head that his wits were all befogged with the dust and chaff thereof. Moreover, as he looked at Robin Hood and saw the yeoman look so like what he knew himself to be, he began to doubt and to think that mayhap he was the great outlaw in real sooth. "Oh no, Quince, come on. You can get out of this," said he in a slow, wondering voice. Am I in truth that fellow? No, I had thought. But nay, Quince, thou art mistook. Yet, am I? Nay, I must indeed be Robin Hood. Yet, truly, I never thought to pass from an honest craftsman to such a great yeoman. Alas, quoth Robin Hood, look ye there now. See how your ill treatment hath curdled the wits of this poor lad, and turned them all sour. I myself am Quince, the cobbler of Derby Town. Is it so? Said Quince. Then indeed, I am somebody else, and can be none other than Robin Hood. Take me, fellows, but let me tell you that ye have laid hand upon the stoutest yeoman that ever trod the woodlands. Thou wilt play madman, wilt thou? Said the leader of the band. Here, Giles, fetch a cord, bind this knave's hands behind him. I warrant we will bring his wits back to him again when we get him safe before our good bishop at Tutbury Town. Thereupon they tied the cobbler's hands behind him, and led him off with a rope, as the farmer leads off the calf he hath brought from the fair. Robin stood looking after them, and when they were gone he laughed till the tears rolled down his cheeks, for he knew that no harm would befall the honest fellow. And he pictured to himself the bishop's face when good Quince was brought before him as Robin Hood. Then, turning his steps once more to the eastward, he stepped out, right foot foremost, toward Nottinghamshire and Sherwood Forest. Yeah, like, Quince isn't gonna go to jail, right? Like, they're gonna bring him to the bishop's gonna be like, this is not Robin Hood. Like, Quince will be released. But that's not to say that these men aren't gonna, like, bully or, like, punch him or whatever along the way. Like, he can't guarantee that no harm will come to him. Moreover, this is gonna be extremely distressing for Quince. Even if he escapes all physical harm, it's still, like, a bad time. Where is my other drink? There it is. I found it. Why do tyrants tyrant? You know, it's a good question. Lack of empathy, I guess. He would hang Quince out of spite. That's true. That's true. But this, although the sheriff is, like, taking part in the hunt, but he's not the one, like, in charge of it. So, I mean, the bishop's pretty shitty, but hopefully wouldn't just, like, execute or imprison an innocent man. Why are all of the king's yeomen praying to the saint of Canadian rotisserie chicken? Who's the saint of Canadian rotisserie chicken? Costco? I don't know that we have a saint of rotisserie chicken. Most people I know just get their rotisserie chicken from, like, the grocery store. Alright. But Robin Hood had gone through more than he wotted of. His journey from London had been hard and long. And in a sennight he had travelled 70 and more of miles. He thought now to travel on without stopping until he had come to Sherwood, But ere he had gone half a score of miles, he felt his strength giving way beneath him, like a river bank, which the waters have undermined. He sat him down and rested, but he knew within himself that he could go no farther that day, for his feet felt like lumps of lead, so heavy were they with weariness. Once more he arose and went forward, but after traveling a couple of miles, he was fain to give the matter up. So, coming to an inn just then, he entered, and, calling the landlord, bade him show him to a room, although the sun was only then just sinking in the western sky. 7 nights a week. Yeah. Yeah, which, knowing that there used to be the word sennight for 7 night, it makes the term fortnight make more sense. Sennight, 7 nights, fortnight, 14 nights, 2 weeks. Oh, famous Cupid, hello again. Thank you for choosing to use your Prime here. Thank you. And it's good to see you again. Thank you for the Prime. Shay the Bean is going to bed. Good night, Shay. Thank you for hanging out. Sleep well. Fortnite sounds like lake slang. I think the term fortnight is amazing, specifically because otherwise our only other option is the term bi-weekly, which is famously problematic because bi-weekly could mean twice a week or every 2 weeks. Why we gave up the term fortnight to use a more confusing term, beyond me. It's quite cozy here. I'm so glad you think so. Alright. There were but 3 bedrooms in the place, and to the meanest of these, the landlord showed Robin Hood. But little Robin cared for the looks of the place, for he could have slept that night upon a bed of broken stones. So, stripping off his clothes without more ado, he rolled into the bed, and was asleep almost ere his head touched the pillow. Toronto, Quebec-based chicken chain. Okay. Ontario does not represent all of Canada, okay? We're not just all just in the shadow of unterrible, okay? You can't just say Canadian chicken chain if it's just like a Toronto and Eastern thing. You okay? Who sneezed? Who was that? That was crazy. You both look okay. You okay? Canada's bigger than get out of here, Loki. Is Ontario where the King of Canada lives? Shut up. You were born in Ontario, and now you're West Coast. Hell yeah, West Coast, Best Coast. BC in particular beefs with Ontario. Because it's kind of like, you know how, like, online there's a lot of, like, American defaultism. Like, people online just assume that you're American, and then you have to be like, I am not American. The same goes, like, if it's specifically, like, a Canadian forum, people just assume you're in Ontario, and you have to be like, I'm in another fucking province. Wait, anonymous gifter gave Eli with no last name a tier 1 sub. Oh my goodness, thank you, anonymous. The King of Canada lives in England. Truth, actually. Yeah. He is the King of Canada. weirdly, he's not the King of England. There's no King of England. That's not one of his titles. But he is the King of Canada. Yeah, it's like the King of the United Kingdom of blah 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 blah. But like King of England is not a specific title that he has. Isn't Canada in the continent of North America? Yeah. I was using America to mean United States. Yeah. I seem here with being West Australian, really? Anyways, the beef with Ontario is not serious. It's mostly lighthearted. Okay, let's jump back into it. Not long after Robin had so gone to his rest, a great cloud peeped blackly over the hills to the westward. Higher and higher it arose until it piled up into the night like a mountain of darkness. All around beneath it came ever and anon a dull red flash, and presently a short grim mutter of the coming thunder was heard. What? Hey, Will. Thank you for the 600 bits. What? Thank you. Thank you so much. Then up rode 4 stout burghers. Then up rode... No. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get through this. Okay. Then up rode 4 stout burghers of Nottingham town, for this was the only inn within 5 miles distance, and they did not care to be caught in such a thunderstorm as this that was coming upon them. Leaving their nags to the stablemen, they entered the best room of the inn, where fresh green rushes lay all spread upon the floor, and there called for the goodliest fare that the place afforded. After having eaten heartily, they bade the landlord show them to their rooms, for they were a-weary, having ridden all the way from Dronfield that day. So, off they went, grumbling at having to sleep two in a bed, but their troubles on this score, as well as all others, were soon lost in the quietness of sleep. Aw, bros are just getting a little cuddle on. Dude, I could go for a stout lusty burger right now. I have not properly eaten. His Majesty Charles III, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of his other realms and territories, King, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith. So that's what he's known as in the UK and in Canada. Charles III, by the grace of God, King of Canada and his other realms and territories, head of the Commonwealth. In 2023, Canada changed its title slightly. It no longer mentions the United Kingdom or defender of the faith. Hell yeah. Because we're a secular society. I also want a paragraph long I mean, we can all come up with our own, you know? Like, fucking Daenerys Stormborn, that's just because it was stormy out the night she was born. Like, anyone can tack that onto their name. Like, what is stopping us? So you still got a king? Yeah. He doesn't really do anything. Like, it's not like he's on our money. But it's more just like a figurehead thing. Yeah. You could be Ellie the Snowborn Breechbirth. Like, that goes hard, right? Was that leg? I don't know. Are you guys seeing leg? I'm not seeing any drop frames, but... And now came the first gust of wind, rushing past the place, clapping and banging the doors and shutters, smelling of the coming rain, and all wrapped in a cloud of dust and leaves. As though the wind had brought a guest along with it, the door opened of a sudden, and in came a friar of Emmet Priory, and one of high degree, as was shown by the softness and sleekness of his robes and the richness of his rosary. He called to the landlord and bade him first have his mule well fed and bedded in the stable, and then to bring him the very best there was in the house. So presently a savory stew of tripe and onions with sweet little fat dumplings was set before him, likewise a good stout pottle of malmsey, and straightway the holy friar fell to with great courage and hardiness, so that in a short time naught was left but a little pool of gravy in the centre of the platter, not large enough to keep life in a starving mouse. Welcome! Oh my goodness! Hi Nick! Hello everyone! Welcome, welcome! You guys, make sure you are following the ASMR nerd, who does such freaking cozy content on Twitch and has a lot of content on YouTube. Hi! How's it going, Nick? Oh my goodness. Actually, Nick, you were like part of my my YouTube recap, whatever they call it, their like annual recap that they started doing. Apparently I've watched a lot of your videos. And introduced Logotown to Twitch ASMR. Hell yeah. Super cozy tonight. Nice. That's awesome. What were you guys doing? Were you playing a game or? And yes, if any of you are new here, I'm Faolkor. We do a mixture of traditional ASMR triggers and cozy soft-spoken reading. So we're in the middle of our story time segment right now. We've been reading The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood, and it is a lot of fun. A cozy little cabin building game called Log Away. Nice! That sounds super cozy. Well, thank you so much for the raid. It's very good to see you. Please feel free to, get cozy or raid and fade as the needs may be. Make sure you're taking care of yourself after your stream. Your room looks so cozy. It is pretty cozy in here. It is, I'm not gonna lie. Yes, we are. The story does, okay. It's tough. Look, we're mature adults. But this story does talk a lot about butts. It uses the word lusty a lot. And shaft. Are we? I mean, we could be. You don't know. There's a lot of things in this book that seem like it should be innuendo, but it's actually totally innocent. Is your lighting different? I've got Christmas lights set up here. This is a Christmas tree, but you can barely see it because it's just blending in with the Christmas lights behind it. But Spot would have gone crazy. Yeah. Anyway, right now, Robin Hood is on the run. The king has like a bunch of men out looking for him that are being led by the Bishop of Hereford, who hates Robin. And they're like interrupting him getting back into Sherwood Forest because they know that if he gets back to Sherwood Forest, they can't catch him. So they need to catch him while he's still on the open road. It's not so much that it's this long of a story is that there's a lot of stories about Robin Hood. Like, these are less chapters and more like vignettes that we're reading. And this is only one volume, right? Like, different authors throughout the years have written down, like, this isn't like a comprehensive collection of all the Robin Hood stories. Anarchy, thank you for the D1 sub, Anarchy. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Someone compiled them. Is there an order to them? I mean, this one, at least it starts with like when he's younger, but there's somewhat of an order to them because obviously, like, there's stories about how like certain people join his merry men, like Little John and Will Scarlet and Friar Tuck, and so obviously stories that include them have to come after the story where they joined, right? But there's probably some flexibility in terms of the order. Tony, thank you for the follow. Hello, welcome. So yeah, he is hiding out in an inn. He's exhausted because he's on the run, so he decides to stay in this little tiny inn for one night. But as bad luck would have it, there's a thunderstorm, so a bunch of other people are coming into the inn, and that's not good for him. Oh yeah, we were waiting for the story where he meets Marion, and it hadn't happened yet. But then just once in one story, he's like, oh, this bread crust is so glossy and brown like Marion's hair. And that's like the only mention of Maid Marian that we have, is that the bread crust reminded him of her hair. We are also, just to let you know, we're also live over on the YouTube side. The first link there, the second link is specifically my ASMR channel, but we're live on the first one right now. And that's also where I'm working on editing past reading VODs to get up there. So if you're interested in that, go drop a sub. Or if you want to watch over there, it helps with view the watch hours. So, alright, let's jump back in. Okay, and Nick, thank you again so much. Always awesome to see you. And I hope the rest of your night is really lovely. Everyone go follow the ASMR nerd. Okay. In the meantime, the storm broke. Another gust of wind went rushing by, and with it fell a few heavy drops of rain, which presently came rattling down in showers, beating against the casements like 100 little hands. Bright flashes of lightning lit up every raindrop, and with them came cracks of thunder that went away rumbling and bumping as though Saint Swithin were busy rolling great casks of water across rough ground overhead. Okay, good night, Nick. Good night. The women folks screamed, and the merry wags in the tap room put their arms around their waists to soothe them into quietness. At last, the holy friar bade the landlord show him to his room, but when he heard that he was to bed with a cobbler, he was as ill-contented a fellow as you could find in all England. Nevertheless, there was nothing for it, and he must sleep there or nowhere. So, taking up his candle, he went off, grumbling like the now distant thunder. When he came to the room where he was to sleep, he held the light over Robin and looked at him from top to toe. Then he felt better pleased, for instead of a rough, dirty-bearded fellow, he beheld as fresh and clean a lad as one could find in a week of Sundays. So slipping off his clothes, he also huddled into the bed, where Robin, grunting and grumbling in his sleep, made room for him. I get that when the soldiers came in, And the landlord being like, we don't have enough rooms, but you guys can share if you want. They're like, okay. But Robin's already asleep, and he's just gonna wake up with this other unclothed man in his bed. I feel like he should get a discount. I don't. I like how Robin makes room for him. They're doing the spooning. They're cuddling into each other. Robin was more sound asleep, I wot, than he had been for many a day, else he would never have rested so quietly with one of the friar's sort so close beside him. As for the friar, had he known who Robin Hood was, you may well believe he would almost as soon have slept with an adder as with the man he had for a bedfellow. So, the night passed comfortably enough, but at the first dawn of day, Robin opened his eyes and turned his head upon the pillow. Then, how he gaped and how he stared, for there, beside him, lay one all shaven and shorn, so that he knew it must be a fellow in holy orders. He pinched himself sharply, but finding he was awake, sat up in bed, while the other slumbered as peacefully as though he were safe and sound at home in Emmet Priory. Now, quoth Robin to himself, I wonder how this thing hath dropped into my bed during the night. So saying, he arose softly, so as not to waken the other, and looking about the room, he espied the friar's clothes lying upon a bench near the wall. First he looked at the clothes, with his head on one side, and then he looked at the friar, and so slowly winked one eye. Quoth he, Good brother, whate'er thy name may be, as thou hast borrowed my bed so freely, I'll e'en borrow thy clothes in return. So saying, he straightway donned the holy man's garb, but kindly left the cobbler's clothes in the place of it. Then he went forth into the freshness of the morning, and the stableman that was up and about the stables opened his eyes as though he saw a green mouse before him, for such men as the friars of Emmet were not wont to be early risers. But the man bottled his thoughts, and only asked Robin whether he wanted his mule brought from the stable. Everyone wears the same size. Well, clothes were not necessarily as fitted, unless you could afford to have them made they both were and weren't, depending on your station, right? The clothes he's wearing are not necessarily fitting him perfectly, especially in the case of a friar's robe, right? What are you drinking tonight? Just flavored water, like usual. Whether he wanted his mule brought from the stable. Yea, my son, quoth Robin, albeit he knew not of the mule, and bring it forth quickly, I prithee, for I am late and must be jogging. So presently the stableman brought forth the mule, and Robin mounted it and went on his way, rejoicing. As for the holy friar, when he arose, he was in as pretty a stew as any man in all the world, for his rich, soft robes were gone. Likewise, his purse, with 10 golden pounds in it, and naught was left but patched clothes and a leathern apron. He raged and swore like any layman, but as his swearing mended nothing, and the landlord could not aid him, and as, moreover, he was forced to be at Emmet Priory that very morning upon matters of business, he was fain either to don the cobbler's clothes or travel the road in nakedness. So he put on the clothes, and still raging and swearing vengeance against all the cobblers in Derbyshire, he set forth upon his way afoot. But his ills had not yet done with him, for he had not gone far ere he fell into the hands of the king's men, who marched him off willy-nilly to Tutbury Town and the Bishop of Hereford. In vain he swore he was a holy man and showed his shaven crown. Off he must go, for nothing would do but that he was Robin Hood. Right, so at this point, they've brought Quince before the bishop. The bishop has figured out, okay, you're wearing Robin's clothes, you're a cobbler, that means he's in cobbler's clothes. So then they've been on the lookout for someone in cobbler's clothes, which now this friar is wearing. Meanwhile, merry Robin rode along contentedly, passing safely by 2 bands of the king's men, until his heart began to dance within him because of the nearness of Sherwood. So he travelled ever on to the eastward, till of a sudden he met a noble knight in a shady lane. Then Robin checked his mule quickly, and leapt from off its back. "Now, well met, Sir Richard of the Lee," cried he, "for rather than any other man in England would I see thy good face this day." Then he told Sir Richard all the happenings that had befallen him, and that now at last he felt himself safe, being so nigh to Sherwood again. But when Robin had done, Sir Richard shook his head sadly. "Thou art in greater danger now, Robin, than thou hast yet been," said he, "for before thee lie bands of the sheriff's men, blocking every road and letting none pass through the lines without examining them closely. I myself know this, having passed them but now. Before thee lie the sheriff's men, and behind thee the king's men, and thou canst not hope to pass either way, for by this time they will know of thy disguise, and will be in waiting to seize upon thee. My castle and everything within it are thine, but naught could be gained there, for I could not hope to hold it against such a force as is now in Nottingham of the king's and the sheriff's men." Is Robin a knight? No, never. No. And he's not nobility. He's just a poor commoner who's very good at shooting. The word yeoman in this case is not conferring like a status. It's more just saying that they're archers. Yeah. Like, I feel like now we mostly hear the term yeoman in the context of like yeoman of the guard, right? Where it's like an official title. But the official title in that is like the guard, and that they're like, is it just archers? I'm trying to, we did look up. Oh, a yeoman is a free English landowner slash farmer, respected class between peasants and gentry. Okay, a freeholder. Or it could be a servant in a royal or noble household. But in this case, I guess yeah. So not like a servant or a slave, like would have owned his own land or whatever. And I guess the joke, I'm guessing it's a bit of a joke that all the merry men are called yeomans. They live in Sherwood Forest, which is the king's land. They don't own it. Do you know what I mean? How did he was a noble who lost his nobility, happenstance, and adaptations? I don't know. They wanted to make him fancy. I'm not sure. I don't think I saw the Russell Crowe one. I heard it was really terrible and it looked really terrible, so I didn't see it. In the Kevin Costner one, like also when they say like Robin of Locksley, Locksley is like his father's estate. But in this, Locksley is just like a town, and people are just like named after, you know, there's David of Doncaster, right? It's just like where you're from. Hey, Senor Feo. For now, this is how everyone must address our hostess thusly. Faolkor the Book Dragon, Queen of Peaks, Devourer of Toes, Mistress of the Croissant, Drinker of Prunes, Wise Reader of Tomes, Overlady of Tales, she whose chalice certainly contains not pee, greatest of all tinglers. I take umbrage with a few of those.
3 sneezes. Yep. What were you even doing over there, Nim?
Are you up to mischief? What are you doing?
Don't look all innocent.
Okay, is it just me? Or, you know those photos? Have you ever seen a photo of like an overfed bear? Like a really fat bear? Is it just me, or does Nim kind of look like a really fat bear? Do you know what I mean? Look at her. Like, she's gonna get into a Pooh Bear situation at some point. Or her butt's like sticking out of a hole somewhere. A wholesome barrel. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what happens. It's stuck in the honey jar. Yeah. Okay. That's a lot of sneezes, girly pop.
What's happening here?
That was like 5 sneezes.
What happened?
Well, she's fine. She's fine. I wanted to check and make sure she didn't have, like... No, she's not sick. I wanted to double check and just make sure she didn't have, like, a runny nose or anything, but she seems totally fine.
Maybe she just snuffled some hay dust or something. Did you get some dust in your nosy?
Yeah.
Sweetheart.
Oh my gosh, you're shedding so much.
You're shedding so much.
This is crazy. What the hell? I know Cloud is the long-haired one, but Nim sheds so much more. This is insane.
Okay, I need to get back to reading now. Do you want to hang out? You want to hang out while I read?
Okay. Okay. Having so spoken, Sir Richard bent his head in thought, and Robin felt his heart sink within him, like that of the fox that hears the hounds at his heels and finds his den blocked with earth, so that there is no hiding for him. But presently Sir Richard spoke again, saying, "One thing thou canst do, Robin, and one only. Go back to London and throw thyself upon the mercy of our good Queen Eleanor. Come with me, straightway to my castle. Doff these clothes and put on such as my retainers wear. Then I will hie me to London town with a troop of men behind me, and thou shalt mingle with them, and thus will I bring thee to where thou mayst see and speak with the Queen. Thy only hope is to get to Sherwood, for there none can reach thee, and thou wilt never get to Sherwood but in this way. So, Robin went with Sir Richard of the Lee, and did as he said, for he saw the wisdom of that which the knight advised, and that this was his only chance of safety. Queen Eleanor walked in her royal garden, amid the roses that bloomed sweetly, and with her walked 6 of her ladies-in-waiting, chattering blithely together. Of a sudden, a man leapt up to the top of the wall from the other side, and then, hanging for a moment, dropped lightly upon the grass within. All the ladies-in-waiting shrieked at the suddenness of his coming, but the man ran to the Queen and kneeled at her feet, and she saw that it was Robin Hood. "Why, how now, Robin?" cried she. "Dost thou dare to come into the very jaws of the raging lion? Alas, poor fellow, thou art lost indeed if the king finds thee here. Dost thou not know that he is seeking thee through all the land?" "Yea," quoth Robin, "I know right well that the king seeks me, and therefore have I come. For surely no ill can befall me when he hath pledged his royal word to your majesty for my safety. Moreover, I know your majesty's kindness and gentleness of heart, so I lay my life freely in your gracious hands." "I take thy meaning, Robin Hood," said the Queen, "and that thou dost convey reproach to me, as well thou mayst, for I know that I have not done by thee as I ought to have done. I know right well that thou must have been hard pressed by peril to leap so boldly into one danger to escape another. Once more I promise thee mine aid, and will do all I can to send thee back in safety to Sherwood Forest. Bide thou here till I return." So saying, she left Robin in the garden of roses, and was gone a long time. When she came back, Sir Robert Lee was with her, and the Queen's cheeks were hot, and the Queen's eyes were bright, as though she had been talking with high words. Then Sir Robert came straight forward to where Robin Hood stood, and he spoke to the yeoman in a cold, stern voice. Quoth he, "Our gracious sovereign the king hath mitigated his wrath toward thee, fellow, and hath once more promised that thou shalt depart in peace and safety. Not only hath he promised this, but in 3 days he will send one of his pages to go with thee, and see that none arrest thy journey back again. Thou mayst thank thy patron saint that thou hast such a good friend in our noble Queen, for, but for her persuasion and arguments, thou wouldst been a dead man, I can tell thee. Let this peril that thou hast passed through teach thee 2 lessons. First, be more honest. Second, be not so bold in thy comings and goings. A man that walketh in the darkness as thou dost, may escape for a time, but in the end he will surely fall into a pit." I'm reading this so badly, you guys. Let me try again. "A man that walketh in the darkness, as thou dost, may escape for a time, but in the end he will surely fall into the pit. Thou hast put thy head in the angry lion's mouth, and yet thou hast escaped by a miracle. Try it not again." So saying, he turned and left Robin and was gone. For 3 days Robin abided in London in the Queen's household, and at the end of that time the king's head page, Edward Cunningham, came, and taking Robin with him, departed northward upon his way to Sherwood. Now and then they passed bands of the king's men, coming back again to London, but none of those bands stopped them, and so, at last, they reached the sweet, leafy woodlands. End of chapter.
Yeah? Oh no, is the pig angry? Are you angry now? Yeah? Oh, she liked the butt scratch. Yeah. Oh yeah, booty scratch.
Most guinea pigs hate having their butt touched. Nim loves it.
You're such a little weirdo.
Okay. We are gonna take a few minutes of break.
I'll put you back. I was just worried about you because I love you.
You sneezed 5 times in a row. Okay, she's fine. We're gonna take up to 5 minutes. I wanna have a stretch. I'm hungry. And then I think there's 2 stories left. Anyway, I'll be back in like 5 minutes. Okay. See you guys soon.
Yeah.
You guys, so I know that I said that we were gonna finish this tonight. Wait, why is the white noise so loud? Do you guys hear that? Like extra loud white noise? Oh. Wait, that fixed it. Does it sound okay to you guys? There is 2 stories and an epilogue left. And we've already been going for 5 hours. I'm gonna be so real with you guys, especially because I need to do like editing and stuff after stream. I can't do 2 chapters and an epilogue more. I think that we should save them for another night. I think that can be like enough to make a full night's reading. Is that okay? Here's what I'm thinking. Cause like, we have got and I am thinking of canceling this Tuesday stream, which I hate the idea of, but I'm just like, I'm in a place where like, I am worried I can't get everything done. But we've got Thursday and Sunday, and then Monday we have Mythology Monday, but that's obviously going to be its own content. But that means that there's only 3 streams before Christmas, and one of them's Mythology Monday. So is that okay if one of those is still Robin Hood? I'll be honest, I'm kind of enjoying the whole like, you know, this is the only time of the year that people really use the word merry anymore. And it's really funny that we're reading this book that's full of the word merry. It's about merry men and not about Merry Christmas. I think that's kind of funny and makes it kind of seasonally appropriate. Okay, well let's like, I want to do like some name trace and stuff. Let me end the stream on YouTube and then we'll go for like a tiny bit longer on Twitch. So let me just wrap up on YouTube. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this stream, whether you're watching live or you stumble across this later, if you want to like leave a thumbs up or comment or whatever, that helps apparently. That'd be super cool. And yeah, I may or may not be back live on this YouTube channel on Tuesday, but I will be on Thursday. So yes. And hopefully the edit of A Christmas Carol will be coming up within the next few days. So yes. Okay,